he doesn't look good.
Hold on, Max. I was part of these conversations with you guys when we had the story here on First Take that Colin Kaepernick had settled his collusion grievance with the NFL. In the wake of that conversation, there was all kinds of assumptions. Stephen A., you're absolutely right. You wanted to know the details. But we heard this is a win for Kaepernick. We heard that this is an admission of guilt by the NFL. Why would you settle? Why would you settle if you didn't have something? We heard there must be a smoking gun. The NFL didn't want to come out. And if this number is true, Max, and I respect that, we got to know, is the Wall Street Journal correct on this? But if it's true that it's less than $10 million, all of those assumptions were wrong. Were they not, Max?
No. And they weren't. I think, Stephen A., you have the right point. The confidentiality agreement is the troublesome part or the troubling part, because you'd like to know these things. And in that way, the NFL gets a win. But no, Will, it's not, because look at how easy it is to wag the dog. All you have to do is have something published in the Wall Street Journal that says, according to their source, Wall Street Journal didn't do anything wrong. They said, according to their source who has been briefed about the agreement.
Max, the point is,
$10 million.
If it's true,
no, but
if
wait, but
the number that the Wall Street Journal is reporting is correct, don't you have to revisit all those assumptions?
You have to see it in larger scope. You have to put it in context. That is the point of this exercise. It is this easy to get people to just answer the question on a sports show. If this is true, didn't Kaepernick lose? People, especially who maybe wanted Kaepernick to lose.
My point is that's exactly what was done when we came out here and reported there was a settlement to the collusion grievance. You, in fact, Max, said it was a win for Kaepernick. Why was it okay for you to speculate at that moment, but not today?
Because
when
what you said at the time,
Wall Street Journal reporting the number.
Because what you said at the time, what does it mean? I said that he's made millions of dollars, and he has. So even if it's $10 million, it's totally consistent with what I said at the time. And in fact, you and I got into an argument about how many millions. And this is millions of dollars.
Now, $10 million. I have, Max, you know, $10 million is
I'm not going to let you
wave of the hand by the NFL.
Will, you're someone who clearly was not on Team Kaepernick throughout the process. And now you're trying to frame it as a win for the NFL. And my point is, yes, it can be successfully framed that way.
Let me explain something.
No, I'm in the middle of talking. It can be successfully
you don't need to recharacterize what I'm saying.
It can be successfully framed that way if you assume that the $10 million number is true. And my point is, think of how easy it is to get a win for the NFL in terms of PR here. All you have to do is have that printed in the Wall Street Journal.
Let's be clear, Max. I am not affirmatively saying that it's a win for the NFL today, because I am suggesting we have to know if the NFL's or the Wall Street Journal's reporting is true. But what I am pushing back on is the one person and much of the sports media who, in the wake of the collusion grievance settlement, said, win for Kaepernick. And you can't come out there today and go, well, it's also a win for Kaepernick, when the number is so minuscule compared to what was projected and speculated upon irresponsibly in that day.
I cannot help what people I cannot help what people project. I can say that in a settlement, it's going to be somewhere south of what the person could get were they to win a verdict, right? So a settlement's going to be somewhere south of that. Then the question is, if you get 3 times the loss over those 2 years, what is reasonable to project what Kaepernick would make? Kaepernick was not a surefire starter. So look at backup quarterback salaries and triple that over a 2-year period, and you get to some larger number than 10 million, but a settlement will be south of that, and 10 million sounds ballpark right under those circumstances.
Okay, just to be clear, I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're saying a settlement less than $10 million minus 30% for contingency fees for the attorneys, split between Eric Reid and Colin Kaepernick, is a win for Kaepernick. Just to be clear.
Wait, Kaepernick and the NFL now have to factor in the contingency for the attorneys?
Yeah, absolutely, when you're talking about how much money Kaepernick takes home. You just, because math kind of is important here, you just said about $3 to $4 million for Kaepernick's a win.
Will, what's a backup quarterback's salary?
More than that.
What is a backup quarterback's yearly salary?
Ryan Fitzpatrick, what did he just sign for? I don't know, $10 million with
that's the top paid one. The average one is going to get several million. It'll be way south of 10 million. Maybe like 5 million.
Max, the fact of the matter is the only reason this argument has become convoluted is because you took it there numbers-wise. It wasn't about the numbers because you even said weeks ago, excuse me, if it's just for $10 million, you're not sure that would cut the mustard, but you was also pointing to the collusion element, and you did say before the case was settled that Colin Kaepernick had an argument and the NFL NFL could be in some trouble. So you did say
Well, they
that,
settled,
number
didn't
one.
they?
But well, again, they settled because, again, listen, we got a whole bunch of cases in life where stuff just gets settled so it can get squashed and people can go on making their money while the person who filed the grievance didn't end up with what they were targeting.
Right.
Then you got to take into consideration. Here's where I am at. I'm not about the numbers argument that you and Will are getting into. I'm about the transparency element of it all. What did you capitulate to? If you are Colin Kaepernick, or what did you force the NFL to capitulate to? The fact that we are sitting here in the dark and nobody has known for weeks and nobody knows now what exactly the settlement entails. To me, Colin Kaepernick loses because the NFL has gotten to go away quietly in all of this. You didn't bring it to the forefront the way that your initial agenda was aspiring to do. That is my issue with Colin Kaepernick. We don't know anything.
I think you're right about the confidentiality agreement, because if one side leaks information that they know will get certain people in the press, but certainly largely the press, to take it as true and deal with it as though it's true, even with a qualifier, it may not be true. But if it is, let's spend 20 minutes talking about it, then of course the NFL wins with a confidentiality agreement.
All right, we got to run from here.